This is the 1-year anniversary of the signing of the executive order here in Massachusetts that put the Commonwealth into a state of emergency, and I have to say, well, first of all, I wasn't expecting this. What I have to say is, when I think about what we went through in those first few months to try to find PPE in a world where every global supply chain had basically been frozen because of the pandemic, and the difficulties associated with getting very basic protective equipment to our healthcare workers, our first responders, our long-term care workers, and so many others in Massachusetts who were looking for it. This is really, in some respects, a very special moment and a happy anniversary in some ways for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And to Joe and to James and to the team and to all the folks who are working here to make this facility a reality, I just want to say God bless and thank you. And I remember talking to Joe Fallon about this, and he basically said, hey, I'm a developer. That's what I do. I build buildings. I don't know the first thing about how to actually create an N95 manufacturing facility, but I'll be goddamned if I'm going to live in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, one of the great centers of research and medicine and development on planet Earth, and have us struggle ever again to have to deal with the issues associated with PPE and protecting our workers. I remember you saying that to me. And honestly, James, I'm really glad he found you guys because, as he said, he's a developer. And it would have been an interesting thing to see play out otherwise. But to have a chance today for the Lieutenant Governor and Secretary Sutters and myself to be able to walk through this facility and to get told the story about how these folks worked together, took advantage of one of our Merck grants, like so many other manufacturers here in Massachusetts, and created a facility that has the capacity to produce literally millions and millions of really high-quality PPE for not just people here in Massachusetts, but people all over the country, and doing it with a series of suppliers and sort of participants in this that for the most part are all domestic, which means once again, if there were to be in the future, God forbid, the kind of just complete and utter shutdown that we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, we would still be able to continue to manufacture this gear here in Massachusetts and to continue to employ hundreds of terrific people like the folks who are here with us today, who would be supplying so many of those frontline workers with a really top quality, FDA approved, NIOSH approved product. And I think in some ways it's a real tribute to the ingenuity and the creativity and the drive of so many people here in Massachusetts that when we put that original grant proposal out there, looking for manufacturers to pivot and support this initiative, so many signed up and went for it. And this in some ways is as good an example as you're going to find of that kind of creativity here in the Commonwealth. COVID is still very much with us. We have seen very positive trends on case counts and on hospitalizations and on our testing positivity rate, but it is still very much a fundamental fact of life, not just here in Massachusetts, but in many places around the country and around the world as well. Vaccines are also here, and they are in many respects the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's still really important for everybody to keep wearing masks and following all the safety guidelines to eliminate and stop and prevent the spread of COVID-19. Face coverings, and I don't need to say this in this place, but it's always important to point out that they are very effective at preventing the spread and are a critical part of how our residents are able to protect themselves and others whether they're at school, at work, or out in the public. The masks that are being made here are an industry gold standard for maximum protection against airborne viruses, and we're just absolutely thrilled to have them being made here in Massachusetts with an incredibly bright future for this facility going forward. With respect to the data around vaccines and COVID cases, yesterday DPH reported 1,006 new cases on about 60,000 tests. The 7-day average of percent positivity is down to 1.74%. There are about 700 people currently hospitalized, and of those, about 185 are in the ICU. On vaccines, almost 1.5 million first doses have been administered in Massachusetts, along with 26,553 J&J doses, and over 2.2 million doses overall have been administered in Massachusetts. Yesterday, 85,000 total doses were administered, which marks the single biggest day of vaccine administration since we began this process in late December. Over 750,000 people in Massachusetts have been at this point fully vaccinated, meaning they've either received both doses of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine or have gotten the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine. And we continue to rank #1 among states for total doses administered per capita and first doses administered per capita among the states that have more than 5 million people, and we're #7 overall in total doses administered among all states. Today we have several announcements to make with respect to our vaccine distribution efforts in the Commonwealth, including the launching of a new pre-registration system that will launch on March 12th for the 7 state mass vaccination sites. That means this Friday, eligible residents can go online through mass.gov/COVID vaccine to register to receive notification when it's their turn to book an appointment at a mass vaccination site. In partnership with Google Cloud, our administration's created a process for eligible residents to fill out a form, get notified when there's availability for them to book, and then schedule their appointment to get their vaccination. Initially, this system is only for the 7 mass vaccination sites, but more sites will be added to the pre-registration system in April. The pre-registration system is designed to make it easier for residents to secure an available appointment and will soon replace the current process of large numbers of appointments being posted online on Thursday mornings for mass vac sites. But people should keep in mind that it will probably still take several weeks for eligible residents to be notified that there is an appointment available for them, because we're still receiving a real limited federal supply of vaccine doses to support our efforts here in Massachusetts. As I've said before, we probably have 2 or 3 times the capacity to dose people as we have available supply. For a little more detail, starting on Friday, eligible residents can pre-register to book an appointment online or by calling 211 if you're unable to use a computer. Residents will provide basic contact information and attest to their eligibility and choose their preferred means of contact, either by text, email, or phone for appointment updates. When an appointment becomes available for an eligible resident in their area, they'll be notified and they'll have 24 hours to accept the appointment. Residents will also receive a weekly update on their status and have the opportunity to opt out of pre-registration if they wish to do so at any time. Eligible residents can pre-register and still seek appointments at other locations. We should all remember there are 170 public vaccine sites statewide that post appointments regularly. There are also many healthcare providers, hospitals, and community health centers that are offering vaccines every day to their patient panels, and I'll come back to this topic in a moment. The pre-registration system at this point is only for the 7 mass vac sites and is another tool to help eligible residents schedule an appointment. We anticipate that we'll add more sites to the pre-registration system in April, but starting this Friday, pre-registration is only available for the state's 7 mass vaccination sites. Now, as everybody knows, the Command Center has been posting large numbers of appointments for mass vaccination sites on Thursday mornings. Tomorrow, Thursday, March 11th, will be the last time the mass vaccination appointments are posted online in this way. After tomorrow, all the mass vaccination site appointments will be booked through the pre-registration system. So you can try to secure a mass vaccination appointment tomorrow morning through the traditional VaxFinder at vaxfindermass.gov. But if you're not successful, you can plan to pre-register on Friday, and then you'll be notified on a first-come, first-served basis. Beyond mass vaccination sites, there are thousands of vaccination appointments available every week at different sites for the roughly 250,000 doses that we receive each week from the federal government. This week, mass vaccination sites, when I say this week, I'm talking next week. Mass vaccination sites will administer about 83,000 total doses, and that includes both first and second doses. And as I mentioned, there are about 170 public vaccine sites statewide, which include local boards of health, pharmacies, and regional collaboratives. The local boards of health and regional collaboratives will post somewhere around 63,000 doses next week and tend to post new appointments more regularly than once a week. Eligible residents can visit vaxfinder.mass.gov to find sites near you, including their hours of instruction for booking an appointment. There's also a large share of doses that are allocated to healthcare providers, hospitals, and community health centers every week. And next week, approximately 79,000 doses will be allocated to these providers. Those are first and second doses. And if you're a patient with a provider who's administering vaccines, you've likely been contacted by them with information on their booking process, and this is obviously another option for many residents as well. In addition to what the state receives every week, the federal government also provides vaccine directly to CVS health sites as part of the Federal Retail Pharmacy Partnership. This allocation's proven to fluctuate pretty dramatically from week to week, but we anticipate that next week about 95,000 doses will be allocated to CVS Health here in Massachusetts. Again, that's first and second doses. And in addition to those, there will be about 19,000 J&J doses that will be shipped to select community health centers in the Commonwealth to vaccinate harder to reach populations. Last week, the federal government informed all states not to expect any new J&J doses until the beginning of April. This is a bit of a change from that, but again, it's fairly small numbers, and we're looking forward to seeing the big numbers that J&J is committed to get delivered here in the Commonwealth at some point in the not-too-distant future. Currently, we outperform basically every other state in the nation with respect to our ability to administer vaccines quickly and equitably, but we can only move as fast as the federal government distributes these vaccines. We still get about the same 150,000 first doses of Pfizer and Moderna that we've been getting for the past month or so. To help us plan and to help provide the public with a better time frame and more options to book appointments, we would like to urge once again the federal government to do everything in its power to speed up and boost production and distribution. We understand and we agree that the process is frustrating for many people, and we'll continue to find ways to make the process easier from start to finish, even with limited supply. We are all working on this one together, and when it comes to getting our residents vaccinated as quickly as we possibly can, we know the process can't go fast enough. We're grateful for the patience and cooperation and, frankly, the enthusiasm to get vaccinated that we've seen from our residents so far, and we're very pleased that people have been stepping up and working the system as it exists, which has made Massachusetts, as I said before, #1 in the country on total doses administered and first doses administered on a per capita basis for all states with more than 5 million people.